Hey, what's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken, and welcome back to another video. Valve continues to not have even remotely close to a consistent update schedule. They released it at actually a somewhat reasonable time of day, but they did it on a Tuesday instead of a Thursday. Man, one of these days they'll actually have a predictable update schedule. But yeah, they've released a new update that changes a lot in regards to the map. There's a lot of big gameplay changes, and there's also several balance changes for a few different heroes and items. So we're going to be covering all of it in this video. So yeah, if you want to follow along, then a link to the update notes will be in the description down below. And if you want to stay up to date on all of the latest updates, as well as watch a whole bunch of other very fun videos like silly build experimentation and stuff like that, then make sure that you're subscribed down below. It's free and it helps out the channel a ton, and it also helps you stay up to date on all my latest videos. But with that being said, let's get straight into the first changes. So first of all, let's take a look at this brand new blue lane. They have done a lot of changes here. The archway in the center, as you can see, is completely gone, and they've also changed this bridge up drastically. They've made it bigger, and they've done a whole host of other changes to the Rejuv room as well. First of all, you'll notice that we have new sort of side cubbies over here, and this actually takes you to a staircase, which also connects under the bridge, by the way. So you have this entrance, and both of these will lead down into this room beneath the bridge here, and I believe this is now the only way to get here, apart from also this zip line, which still exists on these side rooms over here. So you have a lot of ways to get down here. And yeah, I don't see any boxes, but that may just be because of the sandbox mode. So I'm going to wait a minute and then let you know if the boxes are still down here. But yeah, you can also connect down into the Rejuv room through these holes. These are still here. Or if you want to go along the side, down where the zip line ends at the bottom here, you can also get into the Rejuv room from this way or from this way. And you'll also see a lot of other visual changes down here. There's a lot of texture changes, a lot of model changes, and that's because they are introducing more of a sewer theme to the actual mid-boss region down here. So yeah, it's a lot more detailed. It's not finished yet, so that's why it still looks a little jank, especially with like the ceiling here just kind of feeling out of place to me, in my opinion. But yeah, there are a lot of changes here, and then of course we still have the side exits out here. These are the same as well. But yeah, very, very big changes to the mid-boss room and to the blue lane. So while we're waiting to confirm whether boxes spawn down here or how boxes spawn down here, because they adjusted breakables that were spread out in the underground, we'll talk about some of the other gameplay changes. I really don't get why, even in the sandbox, these boxes don't just spawn right away. It's really annoying. But yeah, there are some very big gameplay changes regarding the objectives this update, so let's talk about those. First of all, when it comes to flex slots, the first and the third flex slot have been pushed back later into the match. For the first flex slot, previously you needed to kill 2 of these guardians. Now you need to kill all 3 to get that flex slot, so kind of reverting back to an earlier state in regards to those. And for the third flex slot, you now need to kill all 3 walkers instead of just 2. So there's a lot more of an emphasis on actually making sure you clear out every single guardian and walker, which I think is fair enough, but it will mean that if you are coming from behind, you're in a position of weakness, and you don't have all those objectives destroyed, it's going to be even harder to get your flex slots online. They've also changed how it works when it comes to getting souls from guardians and walkers, so let's talk about that. The Guardian Walker total bounty is now split with all nearby players, including players that have done damage to it within 20 seconds. Nearby players will get 40%, and then the rest is split evenly with all 6 players, including those nearby. So, I think what this means is that if you're nearby and you're contributing to the defeat of one of these Guardians or Walkers, you'll get more souls than someone on your team who's a mile away not contributing to the actual fight around these objectives. So it incentivizes you to be one of those people at the fight, taking down the Walker, taking down the Guardians. They have also gone through with a very big change in regards to how the souls from these Guardians and Walkers are secured. You see, whenever you destroy an objective, it will no longer spawn any orbs. Instead, the souls will just be secured automatically, guaranteed, and there's no way for a person on the other team to deny them. So if your walker gets destroyed, you don't have to look up in the air and deny the souls, because it's just not a possibility anymore. Conversely, if you destroy one of these guardians or walkers, you don't have to focus on denying the souls. You can continue to just, I don't know, shoot the enemies or something. This is a very, very big change, because it means, honestly, that they're kind of moving away from, denying souls as a part of this game. Another change they've done in a similar vein is that killing heroes also no longer spawns orbs. It'll just automatically give you and the people who got the assist the correct amount of souls, and there's no way for someone on the opposite team to deny them now. So denying souls is just so much less prevalent this update, because really the only other sources of denying souls, or at least the main source anyways, is the actual troopers. But if you're paying attention to denying, or rather securing, your own trooper souls, then there's almost no chance that the enemies have the opportunity to deny off you. Like, whoever's paying attention to the orb is going to get the orb if it's an orb that they are meant to secure, if it's an orb that spawns for their team. So it's just really, really difficult to deny anything now. A lot of sources of souls are just completely guaranteed now when it comes to these objectives and kills now. So very, very big switch up, and I wonder if they're going to revert this, or if they're going to continue moving forward in the direction of making soul denying just not really a big part of Deadlock anymore. Let's talk about some other miscellaneous changes to walkers and objectives and stuff like that throughout the map. So trooper damage to walkers has been reduced from 80 DPS to 60 DPS, so runaway troopers will be a little bit less of a problem for walkers, but they can still absolutely take them down. Troopers also have had their base bounty at the start of a match reduced from 132 to 120, but the growth per minute from trooper bounties has gone up from 1 to 1.5, which is actually a really big increase, 50% more souls per minute as the match goes on. So the later into the match it goes, the more worthwhile it's going to be to take those troopers, more than it has already been. Troopers are still one of the biggest sources of souls in the game right now, so very important that you're farming those troopers later in the match. They've also changed Walker HP. They've increased Walker HP globally by 10%, but reduced the spirit resist of them from 40% to 30%, so abilities will be a little bit more effective against them. And when it comes to the Rejuv and the Spirit Urn, those have received some changes as well. The Rejuv drop duration has been reduced from 9 seconds to 8 seconds. So when you kill the mid-boss, it's going to drop down and become claimable 1 second faster now, meaning if you're looking for a Rejuv steal, you're going to have to act even faster than before. And when it comes to the Spirit Urn, they've just made a lot of things about it faster, which is kind of interesting. So, yeah, basically, the Spirit Urn, I actually didn't know this until I read the patch notes. The Spirit Urn would do damage to you if you held it for too long. And the reason I didn't know this is because it only kicked in after 90 seconds straight of holding the Spirit Urn, which I don't think I've ever seen someone hold the urn for that long. Usually if a fight's breaking out, they drop the urn and participate in the fight, and so the damage is never dealt. They have cut that time in half now, so now it only takes 45 seconds for the Spirit Urn's damage to kick in, which is gonna be interesting. And then also they have made it so that the urn will auto-run back to home after 45 seconds instead of 75 seconds, another really big speed increase. And then the time the urn will wait for a nearby player to pick it up has been reduced from 20 seconds to 12 seconds. So the urn is just really impatient now. You're going to have to be a lot more quick and decisive about your Spirit Urn fights. Otherwise, the urn is going to start damaging you, and it's going to start running away faster, so yeah, the urn is going to be a lot harder to secure now, I think. And this information is very important, especially because of the next thing I'm about to tell you. They have changed how boons are distributed. Previously, some levels would give stat bonuses and some AP or ability unlocks, but now every level gives one of each. So each time you level up, you get a stat bonus and you get an ability point which you can spend. And the power has been rebalanced on some abilities and items to be the same overall as before. But the big thing here is that the total ability points given out from boons has been reduced from 32 to 29. And the total stat levels have increased from 20 to 32, but rescaled in value so that they're basically the same as before. So this reduction in the total amount of ability points you get from boons means that if you want to max out all of your character's abilities, the Spirit Urn is basically the only way you can do that, because the Spirit Urn gives an ability point to, I believe, the person who turns it in. It might also give it to the entire team. Let me fact check that real quick. So yeah, the person who turns the urn in is the one who gets the ability point. So turning in that Spirit Urn is very important now, because those extra ability points that you get are going to be the difference between maxing out your entire character's abilities or not. So that is a really big change that might have gone under the radar in your first read of these patch notes, but yeah, -3 ability points is like insane. Hey, look, we finally get to see that there are indeed boxes under Rejuv, but their positioning has been switched a little bit. Yay! Wow, I really had to wait 10 minutes just to confirm that. Here's a couple more minor balance changes that I don't really want to talk about too much, apart from one, which is that the headshot multiplier globally has just been reduced from 1.9 to 1.8x, meaning that gun builds have basically globally been nerfed just ever so slightly, although, you know, not really by that much. You're still going to be doing crazy amounts of damage if you hit the head. But anyways, let's talk about some balance changes now. So first we're going to talk about some item balance changes, and we have just a couple of changes here, but definitely some noteworthy ones, especially when we get to the Rescue Beam, which has been a very meta item as of recently. So first of all, opening rounds. No longer works against objectives. It used to, now it doesn't, so don't buy this expecting to take down Guardians faster. Next up, both Extra Regen and Healing Booster have had their health regen nerfed from 3.5 down to 3. Very powerful items for early sustain, so I guess it makes sense. Enchanter's Emblem has had its spirit resistance reduced from 18% to 15%. Notably, they have not nerfed Battle Vest. Battle Vest is still at 18%, so this is specifically a nerf to the spirit damage reduction. And, I mean, considering how much spirit damage reduction there is in this game, I think that's very reasonable. Next up, we have Fortitude, which is an item that I've kind of already been moving away from, just because the passive health regen takes so long to kick in, has actually just been nerfed even more. So the previous delay before you would start getting that 3% max health regen was 12 seconds, and they have increased that to 14 seconds. So it's going to take even longer to start getting that healing from Fortitude. So actually a pretty big nerf there to the consistency. Bullet Resilience and Spirit Resilience, the tier 3 items here, both have had their threshold for the additional Spirit and Bullet Resist dropped back down to 30%. I believe it was 30% originally, then they buffed it to 35%, now it's back down to 30%. These are still going to be incredible items for defense, though. After that, here's the big one. The biggest item change probably of them all this update. Rescue Beam just got orbital striked because the cooldown has been doubled from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. That is a big deal. That is just insane how hard they nerfed that. It's still going to have a bunch of healing, and it's still going to allow you to save your teammates, but with much less consistency. People were rushing this item in the early game, it was the new version of Healing Nova after Healing Nova got nerfed to have a 60-second cooldown and be a tier 3 item. And so yeah, they have nipped that in the bud. It is now no longer such a crazy item in lane that you can pick up for somewhat cheap and then just get ridiculous amounts of sustain. So now Rescue Beam and Healing Nova both have a 60-second cooldown. Healing Nova gives a lot of AoE healing, whereas Rescue Beam gives you more concentrated healing and the ability to yoink a target out of danger. So maybe now the early game crazy healing meta will finally be at an end. Maybe now Rescue Beam and Healing Nova will only be relegated to support characters. Or maybe we'll find something new that's busted. I don't know. We'll have to see over the coming weeks. Radiant Regen has also received a couple of changes. It's received some nerfs to the overall effectiveness, but it regains some effectiveness when you get boons unlocked. So yeah, the regen has gone down from 5 HP to 4, the healing on ability cast has been reduced from 100 to 70, but you will now be able to get more healing with boons. So if I buy this item and then max level my character, we go from 70 up to 118. So by the late game, this item is going to be more powerful than before, but in the early game it's going to be weaker, and I think this is very fair. Radiant Regen is really good on the characters who like this item, characters like Lady Geist and Shiv, who have really consistent spirit damage from their abilities, low cooldown, stuff like that, so very reasonable change. Tank Buster has gotten a fix that I think a lot of people are going to appreciate. It will no longer go on cooldown when it hits an NPC. So previously, if you hit a trooper or someone in a camp, right, it would go on cooldown, and then you wouldn't be able to use it against an enemy hero. So now it only goes on cooldown when it affects players specifically. The consistency of Tank Buster has just been drastically improved as a result. And it wouldn't be a recent balance patch if they didn't shave 1% cooldown reduction off of superior cooldown. They just keep lowering it and lowering it and lowering it bit by bit. It's now only 2% stronger than compressed cooldown for that imbued ability, which is kind of funny. So you really only get this item if you want cooldown reduction on everything. If you're just imbuing, like your ultimate, for example, it's really not worth it to spend the extra 1600 now. But yeah, that's it for the item balance. Now let's talk about hero balance, and boy do we have some changes here. First of all, Calico's getting a lot of nerfs. I think no one should be surprised by that. She's been pretty disgusting, being able to slip in and out of fights and just do a ton of damage, and also be one of the best box farmers in the game. But they saw how good Calico was at box farming and they decided to nerf it. Check this out, I'm just going to show you.
Let's go for a little stroll.
Uh-oh! Uh-oh! Ava is no longer able to break boxes and these golden statues automatically just by running into them. Instead, if you use the melee hotkey, you can do a pounce attack and break them. So you have to engage a little bit more. You don't get to just run through now, and it will definitely slow down how quickly you're able to box farm, because this animation is kind of slow, honestly, and you're kind of locked into it, so she can still roam around really fast, undetected, and farm boxes. It's just going to be a little bit less convenient now, and that will definitely lend itself to less consistency throughout the match, especially like if you're just trying to run away from somebody and you happen to break boxes by accident and get those buffs. That was really just something that, you know, was kind of cheeky with Calico. That is not really a possibility anymore. Also, this melee attack technically can hit this guy, I guess, but it does no damage, so Calico players have a new way to be silly and cute with Ava. I'm attacking you! Rah! On top of that, they have reduced her base health from 700 to 650, as you can see. They have reduced the base health growth by 13%. This is referring to the boons, so generally just a lot less health from those now. And Leaping Slash's melee multiplier has been reduced from 1.6 down to 1.3 extra damage, so yeah, a lot less damage on this. And finally, Return to Shadow's Tier 3 has been reduced from a 30% damage amp to a 24% damage amp. So really just a lot of hard-hitting nerfs to this character, but well-deserved. Calico is insane. It also wouldn't be a recent Deadlock balance patch without even more nerfs to Kelvin. This guy gets nerfed like every patch, doesn't he? So that freaking beam just won't die. So Arctic Beam's cooldown has been increased by 1 second from 24 to 25 seconds. The Tier 1 has had its cooldown reduction nerfed from 7.5 seconds cooldown reduction to just 7 seconds. And finally, the Tier 3 range has been reduced pretty drastically from 13 meters down to 10 meters, which will also really affect how it scales with greater expansion if you were to choose to buy that. You can still get a pretty good range on this, but definitely not as good as it once was, and the consistency is also going to be worse. They basically shaved 1.5 seconds off the cooldown when you have all your upgrades available, and then also they nerfed superior cooldown. So yeah, if we just buy that and then get our cooldown back, we are now looking at, by the time this is over, hold on, give it a second. There we go, we're now looking at a 9-second cooldown on this, so yeah, definitely some big consistency nerfs, but the damage, at least, is still intact. So, early game, the damage is going to be powerful, it's just not going to be quite as consistent as it was before. Lady Geist is getting even more nerfs, because of course she is. It's Lady Geist. So, let's run through them. Base bullet damage has been reduced from 26 down to 23. So, if you were someone who played Gun Geist for some reason, that's slightly worse. The life drain self-slow has been increased pretty drastically by 15%, from 25% to 40%. So, here's my normal walk speed, and then I cast Life Drain. Ooh, that's a lot slower. That's a lot slower. Now I'm curious, if I buy Enduring Speed and Juggernaut, actually let's just upgrade all the way to Juggernaut. How does that affect this? Okay, so I'm walking really fast now, and then pop this. I mean, yeah, I think that affects it. So I guess you can still kind of mitigate it with Juggernaut if you want to go down that path. But yeah, that is a really big slowdown, especially for the early game. It's really going to hurt Lady Geist. And then finally, Soul Exchange's cast range has been reduced from 7 meters to 6 meters, so you're going to have to be just a little bit closer to the target before you hit that juicy life swap. They nerfed Viscous! Oh, I'm totally not biased as a Viscous man or anything, but I really don't think he needs these nerfs. Ah, yeah. Oh, you come to the AndrewChicken channel for Unbiased reporting, right? Yeah, this is totally unbiased. Trust me, bro. Anyways, yeah. Viscous has received 3 nerfs. So the goo ball hitbox size has been increased a little bit. A little bit easier to hit this guy now, if you are trying to shoot at him. I don't think it was particularly hard to hit him in the first place, so kind of seems like a redundant, useless change, but okay. The big hard-hitting nerfs, though, are to the splatter and to the goo ball's damage output. So the tier 3 splatter upgrade has been nerfed. The second bounce in particular, because the bounce is 3 times, right? First bounce, second bounce, third bounce. So that second impact of damage has been nerfed from 75% damage, or excuse me, 70% damage, down to 50% damage. So you now get the 100% damage, then 50% damage, then 50% damage. So boom, 100%, then 50, and then 50 once that finally hits. Whoa! That was a crazy bounce. So yeah, definitely less damage on the splatter, although the tier 3 upgrade is still going to be very good if you're able to trap someone in a tight space and just nail them with, you know, the triple bounce. And then, on top of that, they have nerfed goo ball's damage from 140 down to 120, which is actually a pretty big DPS decrease, but it's still going to have a pretty big impact if you do scale up the spirit items. It's going to be a little bit less powerful now. Goo ball Viscous has actually been pretty popular and pretty good, so I guess I understand why Valve wants to nerf it, even if I strongly disagree, because I love the Goo Boy, and he's just perfect, and he doesn't need any balance changes because he's the best. Alright, we got 2 more heroes to discuss, and both of them are getting some really hard-hitting nerfs. So let's talk about Warden up first. Really big change. If you get interrupted during Last Stand by a stun or curse or something like that, it no longer gets a reduced cooldown. It now just has a 140-second cooldown. As you can see, if I have this IV stun me while I'm channeling, it's a 140-second cooldown. Oof, that's really tough for Warden. You can just have your ultimate nixed just like that. Next, they have also reduced the DPS pretty drastically. The base DPS has gone down from 90 to 80, and the tier 2 DPS has gone from 60 down to 50. However, they have restored some DPS in the form of the spirit scaling, going up from 1.4 to 1.6. So if you invest heavily into spirit, you will get a pretty good amount of extra damage from Last Stand. I'm not sure if it'll be enough to restore all the damage that you lost from those nerfs. Definitely a big balance shift, and especially in the early game, the ultimate's going to be a lot weaker before you get those big spirit upgrades online. Next, we have Wraith, who's getting a bunch of nerfs. The base health has gone from 700 down to 650, and a really big nerf is that the bullet damage growth from Boons has been reduced by 18%. That's a pretty staggering nerf. Just lost 18% of her damage, just gone. Card Trick's damage has also been nerfed from 70 down to 60, but they have improved the spirit scaling from 0.84 to 1.1. So if you want to invest into Spirit Wraith, I guess that's a little bit better now. And also, on top of that, the Tier 3 Card Trick upgrade now has a new effect. It allows you to apply a 25% slow for 1 second, in addition to the 50% card summon rate. So that's kind of cool, I guess. Makes it a little bit easier to hit some follow-up shots for a second after hitting someone with the card. They have, however, continued to do a few changes to Wraith here. The full auto Tier 2 has been reduced from 4 spirit damage down to 3, so hurting her DPS even harder. That's a 25% damage reduction. I know 4 to 3 doesn't sound like that big of a change, but it is. And also, they have done one thing to Project Mind, where they have improved the teleport targeting to remove cases where Wraith would clip nearby geometry unintentionally. So it should be a little bit easier to teleport around the side of corners and stuff like that. It's really a quality of life change. Not really a nerf. I guess technically it's a buff, but really just a consistency change more than anything. And yeah, that does feel pretty good now. So yeah, a lot of big heavy-hitting nerfs to Wraith, though, and it makes sense because she is a ridiculously strong character. Huge gun damage, one of the best ultimates in the game for locking down single targets and destroying them. Yeah, this character definitely needed these nerfs. So yeah, that's going to do it for the latest Deadlock balance patch. Certainly, there aren't as many changes as in previous balance patches, but the actual changes themselves are really big and impactful. Those changes to the walkers and the objectives in particular, as well as the map changes, are going to be very, very big, and I'm excited to give this patch a try. So let me know what you think about it in the comments section down below. Do you agree with the changes that they're making, or do you think they could be doing a better job with the balance? Also, make sure to like this video if you found it to be helpful, and subscribe for more update coverage from me, as well as a bunch of other silly videos on the channel. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.